The league will hate what the Bruins are about to do as they drop their 8th game in a row, this time to the Detroit Red Wings. The Bruins are putting themselves in a very good spot to get up closer to that first overall pick. We're going to be talking about that, as well as some players as of late who, especially in this game, are really deserving of a contract extension, and that will really set this team in the right direction starting next season. We're going to be talking about all of that here in this video. Very quickly, before we get into it, be sure to hit the sub button if you haven't already. We know that just over 70% of you guys watching right now are not subscribed to the channel, so be sure to do so if you haven't already. We have a lot of Bruins news coming out this offseason, especially with the way this team has been structured so far, so you're not going to want to miss it. But really, further ado, let's get into the first topic here of the video, going over a pretty interesting tweet here from Ty Anderson. The Bruins are 0-5-0 on the 5-game road trip, outscored 23-7 over those 5 games, and they are now 0-7-1 in their last 8 games. The worst 8-game segment since March 1997, where they went the exact same record. Now, we know the Bruins were pretty close to a playoff spot for the majority of the season. Even though the season was not at all what they wanted to be, they were still in the running, and they still kind of are. But with the recent 8 games like this, and with the way the Bruins and other teams surrounding them are going, they are complete opposites. The Bruins are pushing for as close as the first overall pick they can get, and they've actually pushed themselves into a very close to a 5th overall pick in this upcoming draft. And we're going to be talking about a little bit about that later here in this video, about the position that they could end up in, as well as some players hovering around that spot. But in these 8 games, we've seen the Bruins struggle. And for the best right now, that's the case that they need to be. And they need to start, or I shouldn't say start, they need to continue losing some games to get down to this push for the number 1 overall pick. Now, it still is a very low possibility, but we've seen crazier things happen before. We've seen the Rangers a couple years ago do it, and the more games you lose, the better odds you get. It really is pretty simple math, but it does suck to see from a Bruins standpoint because we know we hate to see this team lose. But when we're looking at this, the Bruins are putting themselves in a very good position for this pick that will be a very big game changer for the Boston Bruins, even though we know that their picks aren't really their specialty anymore in the NHL. So we're going to touch on those a little bit later, kind of who's going on this, but I wanted to touch a bit about the game as well last night. And kind of going over with the Red Wings, we could see some silver linings here. And even though this was not a great game, we see some very big positives going out of this. Number 1 and 2 on this, Nikita Zadorov and Henry Jokiharju. That pairing is something I want to see next season. We know that, of course, there's going to be some moving up and down. Maybe we see a Elias Lindholm when he's healthy next year with Charlie McAvoy. Then we see Zadorov and Jokiharju. Jokiharju will need to be re-signed, but I think that that's something that will happen. You know, he wanted to come to the Bruins at the trade deadline. That was one of the teams he accepted. Zadorov has been playing very, very well since Jokiharju has come to this lineup, and this is something you really cannot change. Now, I'm very excited to see how this does kind of go about in the offseason. We know that nothing is confirmed. The Bruins' defense is pretty solid when healthy, and I want to see this continue, especially with Mason Lohrei as well. The Bruins could have themselves a very special defense next year, really, hopefully, quickly turning this around, which with this first round pick that they're going to have this year, and also the picks that they're going to have throughout this draft, the Bruins could really make this a very quick rebuild / retool, whatever you want to call it. But another guy I wanted to mention is Morgan Geekie. Another goal in this game. Now, here he is at the bottom of this due to just the team defense, team offense. But with the goal in this game, the lone goal for the Bruins here in this game, he's been putting up some incredible numbers this year and really has made himself a major opportunity to be a big-time extension for this team. At the beginning of the season, we thought he was a guy that could be around the trade deadline being moved. We never knew what was really going to happen to him. He started off very, very bad, let's remember. But since December, he has been one of the best players in the NHL when it comes to goal scoring, to offensive ability. And when we're looking at his stats this year, he has been a very, very good player. When we're considering for the first maybe 15 games of the season, 15, 20, he was practically invisible. So 69 games this season, 27 goals, 15 assists, 42 points. With, first line minutes time on ice, you see 17 there, or just under 17 on average. But putting him on the first line for a majority of this season, we know what kind of role he can play. We know what kind of role he has played, and we will know what kind of role he will continue to play with David Pastrnak. But 27 goals, and I believe, I don't want to say an exact number, but at least 15 of those, or 20 of those, I believe, and be willing to say, are since December. And that really goes to show how much Morgan Geekie has stepped up for this team. He's been one of the only people on this team that has been able to consistently produce. And at just under 27 years old, going on 27 ahead of next season, he's going to be a phenomenal player for the Bruins that will once again propel them in the right direction at the start of next season. when this team hopes to rebound and bounce back after what was a very terrible season this year, and there's no sugarcoating that whatsoever. But when we're looking at the next Montreal, or the next game against the Washington Capitals and Montreal for the Boston Bruins, there's some games here that really line up well for the Bruins if they're planning on losing. Well, the Washington Capitals, second in the NHL. The Montreal Canadiens, a team that we hate to lose against, but are very, very hot as of late, and will continue, I'm assuming, to really make that playoff push. The Carolina Hurricanes, another great team there. The Buffalo Sabres, the Chicago Blackhawks, and maybe the Pittsburgh Penguins are ones I can see the Bruins winning. But we've seen some crazy things happen this year where the Bruins go out, beat some top teams in the NHL, lose to some of the worst, and that was before they even counted out. And now where the Bruins have lost 8 in a row, there's lining up here for some pretty big losses, and I'm hoping that is the case for this pick. I don't like to say I want to see the Bruins lose, but for the sake of next year, for the sake of turning this rebuild, retool into a one-year thing, even though it may not be that, this is a very good schedule to see the Bruins go for this first overall pick, which could be Matthew Schaefer, and what's lining up to be Matthew Schaefer. Now, once again, very difficult to kind of go and surpass the Chicago Blackhawks, the San Jose Sharks. Those two teams are absolutely terrible, but when you see the draft lottery, anything can happen. We saw the ball from the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Rangers in 2020 go up, who got Lafreniere. It was the Rangers in that case, and they were not even scheduled or projected to get the first overall pick. So I'm liking the outcome here for the Boston Bruins in this case with, of course, these upcoming games. Now, when we're looking at the lottery as well, I wanted to pull this up. This is still not confirmed, but I wanted to pull it up with the Bruins 8 picks here because I don't think there's a good chance that the Bruins at all move up into these, or move down, until after 8. I don't think they're going to be anywhere close to after 10. I do think a top 10 pick is, almost, if not already guaranteed. And we're seeing the Bruins be moving up as far as 5 in this draft. And when we're looking at the top 5, Matthew Schaefer, Michael Misa, Porter Martone, James Hagens, and Anton Frundell. You also see Caleb Desnoyers and Victor Eklund there at 6 and 7. The Bruins give themselves a lot of options. Of course, James Hagens, I think, is one that a lot of Bruins fans are really pushing towards because of that Boston College link, watching him be able to play in the World Juniors and locally, so they have a good idea of what he can possess. But as we look around the rest of the top 8 and, going from Roger McQueen down to Matthew Schaefer at 1, there's a lot of potential here regardless of who the Bruins pick. And, as we know, the Bruins picks are not usually great in the first round. There's really no way you can go wrong here as long as you pick someone in the range of where you are. So I do like the idea that they're going to be staying in this, in this range for sure. But even if we move up to a top 5, closer to a Porter Martone, James Hagens, I think 1 and 2 may be off the table due to the Sharks and Blackhawks. But Porter Martone, James Hagens, Anton Frundell, Caleb Desnoyers, Victor Eklund, Roger McQueen, really any of those guys that are listed there as well from 3 to 8, I'd be perfectly fine with seeing the Bruins go out and get. And it's going to be a matter of time until we see. You never know how many games the Bruins continue to lose this season. If they do end up moving towards that first overall pick, you never really know what can happen. And I think the league will hate what the Bruins are about to do at this draft and free agency and lining up with everything. The Morgan Geekie signing, and they're putting themselves in a very good spot. And I want to pull this up from Drop the Mitts as well. Dan Locmelis has some silky mitts. It's a decent season with UMass. 8 goals, 25 assists in 40 games. The 4th rounder from the Bruins. His season is now over in college. Now, I do not expect him to be coming over to the Boston Bruins just yet. He's going to be likely, and what we're seeing right now, going over to play for Latvia in the World Championship will be a very good look at him to be able to see what he can bring to the Bruins or the Providence Bruins next season. As we've been having a video, or a few videos about Dan Locmelis here on the channel. A very hyped prospect in my opinion, and I'm very, very on board with that. I think he's going to be a great talent, and I'm very excited to see what he can do against some talent after having a very big bounce-back season here this year with UMass. And that kind of goes into another topic of what we're going to be looking at from these college guys that are ending their season now. Are the Bruins going to be bringing any over? Are they going to be putting any on the Bruins roster, the Providence Bruins roster? And, of course, we're still in the Final Four here now coming up. And I'm very excited to see, how some of these Bruins prospects are going to start to work back with their teams and maybe go from there. We're going to see a lot of players start to, move over towards the professional hockey a bit. We're going to have some college free agents. We're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about here over the next few days and weeks, so be sure to hit the sub button. Join me here on the channel. We cover a lot of prospects and college guys that could be coming over to help out the Boston Bruins. We saw some of that last year We were very close on a few, but we didn't miss we missed out on some pretty solid players, but the Bruins are going to be looking in a much different direction here this year as they go for the rebuild in the offseason. So let me know what you think about all of this. Let me know what you think about the picks here. Let me know what you think about all of this, as well as the picks that we're going to be having in the draft. What do you think the Bruins are lining up to do here so far for the remainder of the season? And do you think the NHL is going to be scared of the Boston Bruins when we head to next season? Let me know what you think about all of this here. But that's all I got in this video. If you did enjoy, give it a like, hit the sub button as well. But I'm signing out. Thank you for watching. Hope you have a great day. See you later.